You're watching Pedestal by Ashley Sargeant Hagan. Chapter 1. Bleary-eyed, Edwin Sterling fumbled with his phone. He came to an abrupt halt in the terminal, causing his leather-rolling carry-on bag to knock against the leg of his well-fitted suit. He pressed the phone to his ear as he closed his blue eyes against the day. "It's way too early in the morning. I should still be in bed," he grumbled good-naturedly into the phone without so much as a hello. "What time is it there?" asked his assistant, unfazed by her employer's greeting. Jen Murphy was an Irish redhead, attractively freckled from head to toe, who was used to her boss's temperamental ways. Edwin glanced down at his phone. 7:23. 52 minutes until my flight, and I can't get back to London too soon. "Oh, Edwin," Jen remonstrated. "Was the gala that bad? You usually like doing these charity events." "It was fine," he sighed apologetically, running his free hand through his hair and obliterating the order that his light brown curls had started the morning with. "I'm just not used to being alone at these things. It makes me feel very exposed." There were at least two very wealthy, big-haired American women ready to become Mrs. Sterling at a moment's notice. "Promise you won't get sick again. It was very unkind of you. If you're going to remain my assistant, I need you to stay well." "I promise," Jen laughed. "Sorry it was such an ordeal." "Ah, well, all in the name of cancer research," said Edwin in a martyred voice and gazing into the middle distance as if he had an audience. "So, I have Bill picking you up at Heathrow this evening. That way you don't have to take a cab. Hopefully there won't be a swarm of fans." "Thanks. By the way, I do hope you're feeling better." "Yes, I'm on the mend," said Jen. "Gerald is taking good care of me. I don't know if he quite realized last August that for better or for worse included the stomach flu, though." "Oh, married life," Edwin complained. "I believe you're bragging again." "I'm not," she giggled. "Just you wait. I have a funny feeling it won't be long for you now." Edwin rolled his eyes as he hung up his call. "Newlyweds," he complained to himself, "always playing matchmaker." He sighed, glancing quickly around the terminal and blinking as if the fluorescent lighting was a spotlight. He suddenly felt exposed. "Can't stay in one place too long," he thought. "They'll recognize me, even this early in the morning." He began walking, scanning the signs and ticking them off in his mind as he passed. Wendy's, Auntie Anne's, a newsstand. No, they probably don't even have tea. Scowling, he paused briefly as he caught the headlines of Us magazine prominently displayed on a rack near the door. "Who is Edwin Sterling's mystery woman?" "Not again! Ridiculous!" As he stood glaring at the headline, he caught a glimpse of something interesting out of the corner of his eye. It was a shapely form gliding through the airport, her bright red Kate Spade rolling luggage spinning along behind her. His eyes swept from the top of her dark head to the click-clacking of her heels as she disappeared around the corner. Intrigued, Edwin turned to follow her, convincing himself that it was only because he had to go that way anyway. But as he rounded the corner, he bumped against what felt to his tall but less than athletic frame as a boulder that had somehow taken the shape of a man's arm. "Excuse me," he mumbled. The large man attached to the boulder arm gave him a grim nod and kept going. For the first time in a long time, Edwin felt like he was on the outside looking in. The large man was one of a pair, on either side of a much smaller man. All three men wore suits, but the smaller man was the only one who appeared at ease in one. Wonder who it is. Clearly, those are bodyguards. But Edwin's mind shrugged them off. He scanned the huddled masses for a sign of the dark hair or the bright red suitcase, but she had disappeared into the crowd. He sighed, disappointed, until his eyes focused on what he had started out looking for in the terminal. Starbucks. Not a nice London tea room, but it's Dulles Airport after all, he thought. Can't expect too much in Washington, D.C., and it's better than the newsstand. With long strides, he aimed himself for the cubbyhole version of the famous coffee establishment. There was a short line, and he soon found himself at one of the two registers. He ordered his tea, hoping the barista wouldn't recognize him. His luck held. Too early in the morning for him, too, I guess. "Hot tea, please," said a low female voice next to him. He glanced her way. It was the woman with the red suitcase. He pretended not to notice her as he paid for his drink, but he couldn't help but think how unusual it was to find another hot tea drinker on what he knew would be a scorcher of a day. I thought that was only a British thing. As the woman waited at the counter for her drink, Edwin bobbed his tea bag up and down in his cup. From his position near the milk canisters, he had a clear vantage point. She was petite, with long dark hair that waved over her shoulders. He secretly was pleased that she was dressed in a nice pair of slacks instead of jeans or sweatpants. The slovenliness of airplane travelers these days irritated him. He guessed that she was about his age, in her early 30s. Her accent was American and her skin was clear and fair, but she had high cheekbones and full lips with a slight Mediterranean flair. Full, beautiful lips. Suddenly, as if she could sense his gaze, the woman turned and looked directly at Edwin. He attempted to change the schoolboy half-smile into something sexy, but knew by her amused expression that he had utterly failed. She raised one eyebrow and turned back for her tea, but in that one look Edwin had seen beautiful, intelligent, hazel eyes. She joined him at the counter to wait for her tea to steep. Edwin struggled to start a conversation. Hot tea was all that came out. He passed a nervous hand through what was left of his hairstyle. "You're an idiot," his brain screamed at him. "You can at least act confident." "Yes," was her short reply. "In the summer?" "Yes," she said, eyeing his cup. "Me too," he said, "but I'm British, so—" She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "Better do something, stupid. Don't just stand there grinning at her mouth." He reached for the milk. She reached for the half and half. "American," she said by way of explanation, smiling again. Edwin stuck out his hand. "I'm Edwin," he said. "Adriana," she replied, taking his hand. "Adriana Allen." "Adriana from America," he said, wincing as the words left his mouth. She laughed, not a mocking laugh, but a happy, contented, truthful laugh. Edwin thought he would do anything and everything to hear that laugh again. "Where are you headed this fine morning?" he asked, getting his old confidence back. "Actually, London." "Really? Which flight?" "Flight 1161. What about you?" "Flight 1161. I guess we're fellow travelers." "I guess so," she replied, with another smile. "Well, it was nice to meet you, Edwin," she said, picking up her tea. Edwin opened his mouth to speak, but she had already wheeled her red suitcase into the crowded terminal again. He furrowed his brow. He wasn't used to a woman being indifferent to him. He was used to being the one trying to escape the conversation. As much as he told himself it was a nice change, he wasn't sure he liked it. He decided to head toward the gate, even though common sense told him he should go to the private lounge to wait for his flight. Fewer people and fewer unwanted intrusions of his privacy. But he couldn't get Adriana out of his mind. Once or twice, he got second glances from people passing by. One teenage girl whispered, "It's Dr. Hanover," to her friend and pointed him out. Edwin pretended not to notice as she took a stealthy photograph. At the gate, he saw no sign of his mysterious fellow traveler. He seated himself in a corner of the terminal near their gate to wait. Perhaps she went to the lounge. He consulted his watch. Only 20 minutes until boarding. Might as well stay at this point. Across the aisle, Edwin noticed two middle-aged women whispering together and consulting their iPhones as they eyed him curiously. Googling to see if I'm him, he wheeled his carry-on bag protectively in front of him. There was a sudden spurt of giggling and excited movement from the women across the aisle, although when Edwin glanced over, they pretended not to notice. "Yes, you were right. I am Dr. Hanover." The character of Dr. Hanover had rocketed Edwin into superstardom. Until that breakthrough show, Edwin had worked hard as an actor and was slowly achieving recognition in the industry. But Dr. Hanover's immediate success had changed Edwin Sterling into a household name. The show was about Christopher Hanover, a handsome and intelligent doctor who solved crimes on the side. He was brave, he was debonair, he was sharp-witted and sharp-tongued. Essentially, he was everything Edwin wished he could be. Mentally, he summed up the women across the aisle. Not likely to be a problem, probably content to take a secret photograph or two, but not ask me to take a selfie with them. He willed himself to relax in the uncomfortable plastic chair. I do not need an assistant just to take a flight.